name's Jerad. I'm from Ithaca. I've been in recovery for about 16 years now, and I have now 5 years sober again.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Jerad, for coming out and be willing to share your story with us. So we'll start from the very beginning. Briefly talk about your childhood a little bit. What was it like?
So I was raised in a small town in rural upstate New York, and I was raised in a church. I had two loving parents that took care of me and provided all of my needs. And I went to school, and it was a very healthy family. Cookie cutter, really.
Really?
Yep.
So how old were you when you first started experimenting with drugs or alcohol?
I stole a few beers my first time. I was 13 years old.
Okay. Do you remember how it made you feel, the beers?
Yeah, amazing. I loved it. I mean, first time I tried alcohol, I loved it. Stole 4, 5, 6 beers the next time, the next weekend.
Oh, okay.
It was an instant plan, get more beers, have a friend over.
More.
Yep.
So did you progress over high school?
Oh, yeah. By 14, I was smoking pot. By 16, I was smoking pot every day. By 17, I was selling cocaine. By 19, I was in my first rehab.
Oh, okay. So can you share a few examples to illustrate your addiction for us?
A few examples to illustrate. So I was selling cocaine. I didn't know I was a drug addict. And then basically some things happened and I was cut off. I wasn't able to sell through my old whatever. And that's kind of how I found out I was a drug addict. I didn't know what addiction was. I didn't know anything about it. I just knew I didn't have it anymore, and oh wow, I'm an addict. That's kind of how that happened. So that's how, and then I started using other drugs.
Okay.
So that's when I came really a drug addict. I started smoking crack, started doing, heroin, or using both to feel the effects of cocaine again. I'd use heroin to come down and then use cocaine to feel it again. And I just became a full-blown, drug addict. At that point, I would sell you anything to just, make money, hustle. I'd sell pills, whatever.
Gotcha. So you would say that you were obsessed with using drugs?
Yeah, obsessed.
For someone that's never experienced a mental obsession, can you describe it for me?
Oh, man. It's pure agony. It's never ending. It's taunting. It's got different voices. It's seductive. It's it's relentless. It's relentless, and never stops. It never stops. And then you get high, and it's the same person, but it's a different voice.
Right. And how were your relationships impacted?
Oh my gosh, I pretty much lost them all except my mom and dad. My mom and dad have always stuck by me, through even at 19, and then, losing it all again. I got married. My wife left me. I lost my wife and kids in my last relapse, 5-year relapse. So, I mean, it's all been affected. Definitely have lost,
Yeah. So, when you were 19, you went to the rehab the first time?
Yep.
Did you get sober then?
I did.
Okay.
I did. I got sober. I went on to college for a few years, and then I got my wife pregnant at the time and moved and ended up entering a apprenticeship with the state of New York in a local plumbers union. So I became a certified welder, journeyman plumber.
Mm-hmm.
Actually have my own business now where I employ 3 people.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yep. I'm also a pastor now, where I pastor a church.
So what do you think happened with that relapse? Was it like significant, or was it just kind of like a gradual thing?
Huge. I knew as an addict I had it. So I was, during my apprenticeship, I was like learning a new career,
right.
And at the same time I had 2 kids, and I learned how to get sober, but I didn't learn how to have healthy relationships. I didn't know how to take care of money. I didn't know how to raise kids. Mm-hmm. I was not at all prepared to raise kids. And then on top of the new career, right, I needed to provide, I needed to make more money. So I was given, blueprints on a job, and I was really starting to, lead and learn what that looked like. And it was just super stressful. And I had an apprentice, and he smoked pot every day. And he ended up giving me a bud because I was talking about how stressful, you know what I mean? And I joked with him about him smoking. I said, I could smell it, you know what I mean? And I thought it was great. I thought it was funny. But it wasn't drugs, like pot to a drug addict, you know what I mean?
Right.
I would differ now, but that was my view then. But anyway, he gave me a bud, and I mean, it did help. I smoked it, and I could process thoughts. I could put things together and systematically get things done. It really helped, but I'm an addict. Within 3 months, I was selling pot. Within a year, I was growing pot in the farmer's field at my house, the neighbor's house, and just selling pot. And I stayed high. So, it didn't work.
Right.
And then that led to cocaine.
Okay.
And that took it all again.
Right.
So,
let's talk about the 2 weeks prior to getting sober. Can you talk about those 2 weeks? Do you remember what it was like?
Which time? This time?
This last time.
Man, that's a great question. So honestly, I was taking my family to Maine. We go to Maine camping on the ocean every year. And it was that time of the year to go again. So mind you, I'm on federal probation at this time. I committed a federal crime. We didn't talk about that, but so I had a probation officer. But anyway, I knew if I could, my plan was to get to Maine and not take any. I was literally the first 3 days were probably going to be miserable for my family, but I knew I didn't have access to it. I could stay sober, and I knew I needed to stay sober. So my plan was to get there and do that. That was not God's plan. That's not what happened. My probation officer showed up at 7. I mean, I'll just say it now. I don't know if I never said it publicly. My ex-wife now, she called my probation officer and ratted me out. He showed up. No, he didn't show. He showed up. I wasn't there. That's what happened. Yeah, 7 a.m. I'm not even home. So I ended up going out and failing a drug test for everything under the sun.
So did you go to jail?
I didn't. I went to inpatient.
Okay.
Yeah, I was mandated to inpatient rehab. I didn't stay for that. I signed myself out on a Sunday. I don't know how I didn't go to jail again. But I did finish outpatient. I was accepted into a lower level of care. I don't know how, because I just left a higher level of treatment, inpatient. Right. But they did let it happen, and I passed outpatient successfully, and I've been sober ever since. It's about 5.5 years now.
5.5 years.
5.5 years being sober. I'm debt-free.
Wow.
I have a construction business, and I've planted a church with a growing, thriving congregation. And we operate a men's home, 9 to 12 month inpatient men's home in Binghamton, New York. It's completely free to the addict. And we're currently renovating a huge facility for a 15-bed women's home. So it's never ending. There's a lot going on, but it keeps me sober and out of trouble.
And that's very important.
Yeah.
So what about your relationships now, 5.5 years later?
Oh, man. Super healthy. So I mean, I've got my kids back. I actually got my house back. My ex-wife she didn't want it anymore. It's an older house. So I got my house back. I got my kids back, and I've been married a year now.
Oh.
So now I have a new wife, and she's amazing.
Awesome. So you said a little bit about this, but what dreams have come true for you, and what hopes do you have for the future?
Oh my gosh. I'm kind of thinking about it because I was just saying the other day, I'm living in answered prayers. I prayed about this for years, and now I'm so like right now I'm trying to grow my church to 200. So that means statistically I'm in the 3% of churches in the country.
Wow.
So in 5%, that means they're 100 or less. So if you think about it as a whole, churches in the country are 100 or less. So our church is a growing church. We want to put we call it a hope home. It's a 9 to 12 month home. So we have a church in 3 cities right now. So we're a multi-site church. So we replicated a way to start a new church in a new community. It's identical. So it's the same thing. So we can replicate it. So every city that we go to with a church, we want to put a recovery home, a halfway house.
Okay, so can you describe a certain feeling that you have received through sobriety that you couldn't have gotten in active addiction?
Oh man, man, probably gratitude. You know, honestly, I mean, it's kind of a cliche word in recovery. It's on coffee cups, it's on everything. But like when you really carry gratitude, like nobody can take it from me. Like nobody can have it. You know, when you got real recovery, nobody, like people can say things and treat you a certain way, and it's like they just don't have that ability to upset me anymore.
Right.
Like their opinion, I don't value it, or I don't let them in. I don't have it. So that I've learned that, and I'm grateful. Like I know I'm good with my Creator. I'm good with my wife. There's no more secrets. There's, you know what I mean. You can live with nothing to hide, nothing to prove. I don't need anything to prove to people anymore. Nothing to hide. This is great. It's a great feeling. You're free.
So, and like I said, you talked about this a little bit. But what are some intangible and tangible gifts that you've received in the 5.5 years?
Intangible and tangible? Man. Oh, man. I don't know. It's a good question. So, tangible gifts are, I mean, I got my kids back. I got a new wife. I mean, those are big. Inside the organization I am, to be divorced and be a pastor, that's kind of unheard of. But then to be divorced and remarried, so I got past all that.
Right.
So that's a huge blessing. Like, you know, it's really cool. Intangible, I guess, to be able to have a voice, to be able to have influence. You know, like, you never thought I'd be here.
Right. Me neither.
This is not the way. This is not in the plan, 5-year plan. This was not the way.
Right.
You know, I thought I was going to be a welder, smoke weed and weld pipe the rest of my life.
Well, look at you now.
You know, 5 years ago, I never would have thought I'd have employees. Never. Not even close.
And it's important to, you know, support the recovery community, being a member yourself, but, you know, being a part of the solution.
Oh, yeah, I love it. I take guys from our home on job sites. So we're teaching them trade. I'm a plumber. My father works for me. He's an electrician.
Wow.
And I mean, if they're competent enough to, you know, be on a job site, or trusted enough, you know, they get to learn a trade. They get to learn their way around and how to use tools. And
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. So what have you learned from your addiction?
What have I learned? What haven't I learned?
Right.
I don't have a degree, but I graduated and retired. You know, I don't know. I mean, seriously, selfless, servant leadership. It's taught me how to serve people and lead people, because I want more from them than I want, you know, or I want more for them than I want from them. You know, forgiveness. Like, I know how to forgive people, because I know I've been forgiven times 100. Like my parents and my sisters, my grandma, different people. You know, my kids. I mean, even though they're young, they still have divorced parents.
Right.
You know, and they're not even old enough to express really what. You know, my daughter's 13, my son's 12. So, you know, I don't. You know, but it's good. It's good.
So what words of hope could you share with someone who is trying to get sober?
You can do it if you want to. Don't do it alone. You know, do what works for you and get a sponsor.
Well said.
Just talk to somebody. Just talk to somebody.
For sure.
You need to talk to another human being. No one stone covered. Every area. Make wrongs. You know, make right wrongs.
Yeah.
Just start over.
Right.
Don't look back.
Well, thank you so much, Jerad, for taking the time out to come out to the RV and share your story with us. I know it's going to help a lot of people. Was there anything that we missed that I didn't ask that you would like to talk about, that you'd like to share?
No, I don't think so.
Pretty much went over everything?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're good.
Well, thank you again so much. We really appreciate you coming out and supporting On the Road to Recovery.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks.